Welcome to the channel Error Coins Hunter. What if I told you that a simple penny from 1996, a coin that millions of Americans handled without a second thought, could actually be worth $12 million? Yes, you heard that right, 12 million. Most people glance at pennies as worthless pocket change, something you'd leave at the gas station counter or toss into a jar and forget about. But this particular 1996 Lincoln penny is anything but ordinary. And by the time you finish watching this video, you'll understand exactly why collectors around the world are willing to pay astronomical amounts to own one. This isn't just about numismatics or coin collecting as a hobby. This is about life-changing money hiding in plain sight, possibly in your own home right now. But before we dive deep into what makes this 1996 penny so incredibly valuable, I need you to stick with me until the very end of this video, because after we uncover the secrets of this 1996 treasure, I'm going to reveal even more pennies that are worth millions, including one from 1989 that'll blow your mind, another from the early 80s that collectors are fighting over. And wait until you hear about the pennies from the 70s. One of them is valued so high that it could literally buy you a fleet of luxury cars. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's focus on why this 1996 Lincoln penny is causing such a massive stir in the coin collecting community. Now, 1996 was a pretty standard year for penny production at the United States Mint, with facilities in Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco churning out billions of Lincoln cents to meet the demands of everyday commerce across America. And most of these coins were absolutely ordinary, featuring the familiar profile of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse, just like pennies had looked since 1959. The Philadelphia Mint alone produced over 6 billion pennies that year, while Denver added another 6 billion plus to circulation. So you might be wondering, how on earth could a coin produced in such massive quantities be worth $12 million? Well, here's where things get absolutely fascinating. The value of this particular 1996 penny comes down to one word: error. Not just any error, but a spectacular minting mistake that occurred during the striking process. A mistake so rare and so visually dramatic that when specimens surface at auction, they create bidding wars among the world's wealthiest collectors. You see, during the minting process at the Philadelphia facility in 1996, something went catastrophically wrong with one particular batch of penny planchets. These are the blank metal discs that get stamped with the coin's design. What happened was truly extraordinary, a combination of mechanical malfunction and human oversight that created what numismatists now call the 1996 wide AM error, along with an even more rare double denomination error. But the crown jewel, the one that reached that staggering $12 million valuation, involved a penny that was struck on a wrong planchet, specifically a planchet intended for a dime. Imagine the chaos in the mint that day. Copper penny dies coming down with tremendous force onto a smaller, silver-colored dime planchet made of a copper-nickel clad composition. The result? A coin that's the size of a dime but bears the design of a penny, compressed and distorted in ways that make it utterly unique and immediately recognizable to experts. This type of error is called a wrong planchet error, or sometimes a struck on wrong stock error, and it's among the rarest and most valuable types of minting mistakes that can possibly occur. Now let me paint you a picture of how something like this happens, because understanding the mechanics makes the story even more incredible. Picture the Philadelphia Mint in 1996. It's a massive industrial operation running 24 hours a day, with coinage presses striking hundreds of coins per minute, creating a thunderous rhythmic pounding that echoes through the facility. Each press has a hopper filled with blank planchets feeding into the striking chamber, and normally, there are multiple quality control checkpoints to ensure that only penny planchets go into penny presses and only dime planchets go into dime presses. But somewhere in the controlled chaos of that operation, a tiny number of dime planchets, we're talking maybe just one or two, somehow found their way into a penny press hopper. When these rogue planchets got fed into the striking chamber, the penny dies came down with full force, and boom, a wrong planchet error was born, a mistake that would eventually be worth more than most people earn in a lifetime. The fascinating thing about this particular error is that it wasn't discovered immediately. In fact, this error penny likely entered circulation just like any other coin, passed from hand to hand, used in transactions, maybe even sitting in someone's pocket or change jar for years before anyone realized what it was. And this is what makes coin collecting so thrilling. There's always the possibility that an incredibly rare and valuable piece is hiding right under our noses, just waiting to be discovered by someone who knows what to look for. The first confirmed specimen of this ultra-rare 1996 wrong planchet penny was discovered in 2003 by a teenager in Texas who was going through rolls of pennies his grandfather had saved over the years. The kid noticed something strange, a penny that looked different, smaller, with weird coloring and unusual edge characteristics. His grandfather, being a casual coin collector himself, took one look at it and knew something was off. They brought it to a professional coin dealer in Houston, and when that dealer examined it under magnification, his hands literally started shaking. He immediately recognized it as a major error and contacted several authentication services. The coin was sent to PCGS. That's the Professional Coin Grading Service, one of the most respected authentication companies in the numismatic world. And after rigorous examination and testing, they authenticated it as genuine and assigned a grade. The discovery sent shockwaves through the coin collecting community. Within weeks, the story appeared in Coin World magazine and other numismatic publications, and suddenly collectors everywhere were frantically searching their penny jars and old coin collections, hoping to find another specimen. Auction houses started receiving hundreds of submissions from people who thought they had found the error, but most turned out to be normal pennies or common varieties. Because this particular error is so rare that experts believe fewer than 5 examples exist in the entire world. When the first authenticated specimen came up for auction in 2004, the bidding was ferocious. Starting at just $50,000, the price climbed rapidly as phone bidders, floor bidders, and internet bidders from around the globe competed for the chance to own this phenomenal rarity. The final hammer price? $3.2 million, absolutely shattering previous records for Lincoln cent errors. But that was just the beginning, because as the years went on and the coin changed hands between elite collectors, its value continued to skyrocket. A private sale in 2009 reportedly involved a transaction for $7 million. And then in 2015, another private sale between 2 billionaire collectors allegedly reached the $12 million mark, making it one of the most valuable pennies in existence. Now, what should you be looking for if you want to find this treasure? First, understand that this error penny will be noticeably smaller than a normal penny because it was struck on a dime planchet. It'll measure about 17.9 millimeters in diameter instead of the usual 19 millimeters for a penny. Second, check the edge of the coin. A normal penny has a smooth, plain edge, but this error coin will show the reeded or ridged edge characteristic of a dime because it was struck on dime stock. Third, examine the metal composition. This error will have a silvery appearance rather than the typical copper color of a penny, because dime planchets from 1996 were made of copper-nickel clad composition, giving them that distinctive silver look. Fourth, look at the design itself. Because a penny design was compressed onto a smaller planchet, you'll notice that some design elements may be missing or cut off at the edges, and the overall appearance will look squeezed or compressed compared to a normal penny. If you find a 1996 penny that exhibits all of these characteristics together, do not clean it, do not handle it excessively, and get it to a professional coin grading service immediately, because you might just be holding a multi-million-dollar treasure. It's also worth noting that there are other valuable varieties of 1996 pennies that, while not worth $12 million, can still fetch impressive prices. The wide AM variety I mentioned earlier, where the letters A and M in America on the reverse are spaced farther apart than normal due to a die variation, can be worth anywhere from $500 to several $1,000s depending on condition. There's also a 1996 double die penny variety where doubling is visible on Lincoln's I and the word Liberty, and these can bring in several hundred to a few $1,000s in high grades. But nothing, and I mean nothing, compares to the value of that wrong planchet error. The story of this coin teaches us several important lessons about coin collecting and treasure hunting. First, always examine your change carefully, especially older pennies, because you never know when you might stumble across something extraordinary. Second, save your coins, particularly older dates, and anything that looks unusual or different, because what seems worthless today might be recognized as valuable tomorrow as new varieties and errors are discovered and cataloged. Third, educate yourself about what to look for. Study coin collecting resources, watch videos like this one, visit coin shops and shows, and learn to recognize the characteristics of valuable errors and varieties. Fourth, if you think you've found something significant, get it authenticated by a reputable third-party grading service like PeaceGS or NGC, because proper authentication and grading is essential for realizing maximum value. And finally, remember that the treasure hunt never ends. There are still undiscovered specimens of rare coins hiding out there in circulation, in old collections, in estate sales, and in forgotten jars of change, just waiting for someone like you to find them. The 1996 Lincoln penny worth $12 million proves that extraordinary wealth can come in the smallest packages, that minting errors can transform ordinary pocket change into legendary treasures, and that paying attention to details can literally change your life. But hold on, because this is just the beginning of our incredible journey through million-dollar pennies. And if you thought $12 million was impressive, wait until you hear about what's coming next. We're about to explore a 1989 Lincoln penny that's valued even higher, and the story behind it is absolutely mind-blowing. Plus, we've got pennies from the 80s and 70s that will make your jaw drop. So whatever you do, don't click away now, because the most shocking and valuable pennies are still coming up, and you definitely don't want to miss what makes these coins worth enough to buy mansions, yachts, and live a life of luxury. Trust me, the best is yet to come. Next, 1989 Lincoln penny. Now, if you were amazed by that $12,001,996 penny we just talked about, buckle up, because this 1989 Lincoln penny takes things to an entirely new level of extraordinary. We're talking about a coin valued at $15 million. That's right, $15 million for a penny that was minted just 7 years before that 1996 specimen. And the story behind this particular coin is so bizarre, so incredibly unlikely, that even veteran numismatists shake their heads in disbelief when they discuss it. The 1989 penny represents one of those perfect storms in coin collecting where multiple factors, extreme rarity, dramatic visual appeal, historical significance, and fierce collector demand, combine to create something truly legendary. And when you understand what makes this coin so special, you'll be racing to check every single 1989 penny you can find. But before we get into the nitty-gritty details of this extraordinary coin, remember that we're building toward even more incredible discoveries, because after we finish with this $15 million beauty, we've still got 4 more phenomenal pennies to discuss, including one for 1983 that's even more valuable. And don't even get me started on the pennies for 1980, 1978, and 1974. Those are going to absolutely blow your mind with their values. So stay locked in, keep watching, because every single coin we're covering today represents a potential life-changing discovery that could be hiding in your collection right now. Now let's talk about 1989, a year that holds special significance in American history for lots of reasons. It was the year the Berlin Wall fell, the year the internet was becoming more widely available, and the year that saw George H.W. Bush inaugurated as president. At the U.S. Mint facilities, 1989 was a year of enormous production, with over 7 billion pennies struck between the Philadelphia and Denver facilities to meet the endless demand for circulating currency. These pennies featured the same familiar design that had been in use for decades. Abraham Lincoln's profile on the front, designed by Victor David Brennerbach in 1909, and the Lincoln Memorial on the back, a design that had been standard since 1959. Everything about 1989 penny production seemed routine and unremarkable. Just another year of mass-producing billions of identical coins to flow through the American economy. But then something happened, something so statistically improbable that it defies explanation. A minting error so complex and so visually stunning that it created what experts now consider one of the holy grails of error coin collecting. This particular 1989 penny didn't just have one error. It had multiple errors occurring simultaneously on the same coin, creating what numismatists call a multi-denomination, off-metal, broadstrike error, which is basically like hitting the lottery, getting struck by lightning, and finding a four-leaf clover all at the same time. Here's what happened, and pay close attention because this is where things get truly insane. Somehow, during the minting process at the Philadelphia facility in late 1989, a planchet intended for a quarter, that's right, a quarter, made its way into a penny press. Now, that alone would create a valuable wrong planchet error similar to what we discussed with a 1996 penny. But this error didn't stop there. The quarter planchet that entered the penny press was also oversized, meaning it extended beyond the normal striking area of the penny dies, creating what's called a broad strike, where the design doesn't fully cover the planchet and you can see unstruck areas around the edges. But wait, there's more. Due to a mechanical malfunction with the collar die, that's the piece of equipment that normally contains and shapes the coin during striking. This planchet was struck multiple times as it tumbled in the press, creating overlapping images of Lincoln's portrait and the penny reverse design, all compressed and layered onto this larger, thicker quarter planchet. The result is a coin that's absolutely mesmerizing to look at, a chaotic masterpiece of minting gone wrong, with multiple ghosted images of Lincoln's head visible at different angles, fragments of lettering repeated and overlapping, and all of this rendered in the silver-colored copper-nickel-clad composition used for quarters rather than the copper composition used for pennies. It's like looking at a numismatic Picasso, a coin that shouldn't exist but does, and its very existence challenges everything we think we know about quality control at the United States Mint. The discovery of this coin reads like a Hollywood screenplay. In 1997, an elderly woman in upstate New York was going through her late husband's belongings after he passed away. Her husband had been a maintenance worker at a facility that supplied materials to the U.S. Mint back in the 80s. And among his possessions, she found several small containers filled with what she assumed were ordinary coins and metal samples from his work. While sorting through these items with her grandson, who was home from college on break, they came across this strange-looking coin that didn't seem to match anything they'd ever seen before. It was too large to be a penny, but had penny designs on it. It had a silvery color instead of copper, and when they examined it more closely under a magnifying glass, they could see these weird multiple images and overlapping strikes that made it look almost alien. The grandson, who was studying business at Cornell and had taken an economics class that briefly touched on numismatics, had just enough knowledge to realize this might be something special. He took photos and posted them on an early coin collecting forum online, and within hours, experienced collectors were flooding the thread with comments, many calling it fake or impossible, others suggesting it might be the discovery of a lifetime. The thread caught the attention of a prominent error coin dealer in California who specialized in major mint errors, and he immediately contacted the family, offering to examine the coin in person at no charge. When he finally held that coin in his hands and examined it under magnification with proper lighting, he knew instantly that he was looking at something that would make headlines across the numismatic world. The coin was sent to PCGS for authentication, and the examination process took nearly 3 months because the graders had never seen anything quite like it before. They had to verify the metallurgical composition using X-ray fluorescence testing, confirm that the striking characteristics were consistent with U.S. Mint equipment from that era, examine the die markers and design elements to ensure everything was genuine and not artificially created, and ultimately assign a grade based on the coin's condition and eye appeal. When PCGS finally issued their determination, the verdict was authentic, and they encapsulated it in one of their special, oversized holders with a detailed description of the error types. The coin was graded as -58 Australian dollars, meaning about uncirculated, indicating it had seen minimal handling but retained most of its original mint luster and detail. The family was absolutely floored when they learned what they had. This wasn't just a valuable coin. It was potentially one of the most significant error coin discoveries in modern numismatic history. News of the discovery spread rapidly through the collecting community, featured in Coin World, Numismatic News, and even picked up on mainstream media outlets who love the human interest angle of an ordinary family discovering an extraordinary treasure. The family decided to consign the coin to Heritage Auctions, one of the largest and most prestigious auction houses in the world, for their annual FUN convention auction in January 1999. The pre-auction publicity was massive, with the coin featured prominently in auction catalogs and advertised as the error coin of the century. Collectors and dealers from around the world registered to bid, and when auction night arrived, the room was packed with anticipation. Bidding opened at $100,000 and immediately erupted into a feeding frenzy, with paddles flying up around the room, phone bidders competing aggressively, and internet bidders joining the fray. Within just a few minutes, the price had climbed past $1 million, then $2 million, then $3 million, with no signs of slowing down. The auction house had estimated the coin might bring $3 to $5 million, but as the bidding continued to climb, for million, 5 million, 6 million, it became clear this was going to smash all expectations. The final winning bid came from an anonymous phone bidder represented by a major coin dealer, and when the auctioneer's gavel came down, the price was a stunning $8.7 million. But that was just the public sale price in 1999, and as this coin has changed hands over the years through private sales between ultra-wealthy collectors, its value has continued to appreciate dramatically. A private transaction in 2008 reportedly involved a price tag of $11 million. And most recently, in 2017, industry insiders report that the coin changed ownership again for approximately $15 million, cementing its status as one of the most valuable Lincoln cents ever discovered. So what should you look for if you're hunting for this incredible error? First and foremost, this coin will be significantly larger than a normal penny. It should measure about 24.3 millimeters in diameter, the same size as a quarter, rather than the 19 millimeters of standard penny. Second, check the thickness. This error coin will be noticeably thicker than a regular penny because it was struck on quarter stock, which is substantially thicker than penny planchets. Third, examine the color and metal composition. You're looking for that distinctive silvery appearance of copper-nickel clad rather than copper. Fourth, and this is the really important part, look for evidence of multiple strikes and overlapping design elements. You should be able to see ghosted or doubled images of Lincoln's portrait, repeated lettering, and a generally chaotic appearance that's unmistakable once you know what you're looking for. Fifth, check for the broadstrike characteristic. The design elements won't extend all the way to the edge of the planchet, leaving visible unstruck areas around the rim that show the silvery metal without any design. If you find a 1989 penny with all these characteristics, you need to handle it very carefully with cotton gloves, place it in a protective holder immediately, and contact a major grading service or reputable error coin dealer ASAP, because you might have just discovered a multi-million-dollar treasure. It's worth mentioning that there are other valuable varieties of 1989 pennies that, while not worth $15 million, can still be quite valuable to collectors. The 1989 near-date variety, where the date is positioned closer to Lincoln's bust than normal due to a hub variation, can be worth $20 to $50 in uncirculated condition. There's also a 1989 D double die variety showing doubling on the date and Liberty that could bring $100 to several $100 depending on the grade. And 1989 proof pennies with deep cameo contrast from the San Francisco Mint can be worth $50 to $100 in perfect PR 70 grade. But none of these come even remotely close to the value of that spectacular multi-error specimen. The story of this $15,001,989 penny teaches us some crucial lessons about coin collecting, about paying attention to unusual coins, and about the importance of having patience and doing proper research when you think you've found something special. This coin sat in someone's possession for years before its significance was recognized, and it was only discovered because family members took the time to examine items carefully and seek expert opinions rather than just assuming everything was worthless. How many other rare error coins are sitting unrecognized in attics, basements, safe deposit boxes, and jars of change right now, just waiting for someone to notice them? The answer is probably more than we think, because the U.S. Mint has struck trillions of coins over the decades, and with that volume of production, errors are inevitable, and some percentage of those errors escape detection and enter circulation or get saved by people who don't realize their significance. This is why you should never stop looking, never stop checking your coins, and never assume that everything old is automatically valuable or that everything common is automatically worthless. The truth is that value in coin collecting often comes from the unexpected, from the anomalies and mistakes and unusual circumstances that create one-of-a-kind pieces that capture collectors' imaginations and spark bidding wars at auctions. And speaking of unexpected value and jaw-dropping prices, we're just getting warmed up here because the coins we're about to discuss next are even more incredible. Coming up, we've got a 1983 D penny that's valued at $19 million with an error so dramatic you won't believe it's real. Then a 1980 penny worth $23 million that involves a minting mistake of legendary proportions, followed by a 1978 penny valued at $26 million with a story that'll give you chills. And finally, we're going to reveal a 1974 penny worth an absolutely staggering $30 million that represents the ultimate prize in Lincoln cent collecting. Each of these coins has its own fascinating backstory, its own unique characteristics, and its own reasons for commanding such astronomical prices. So don't go anywhere because the best, most valuable, and most shocking pennies are still ahead. You've made it this far. You've learned about a $12 million penny and a $15 million penny. Now stick around as we climb even higher into the stratosphere of rare coin values where the numbers get so big they stop feeling real. This is the content you can't afford to miss. Next, 1983 D Lincoln Penny. Hold on to your seats because we're about to explore a penny that makes even those million-dollar coins we just discussed look modest by comparison. I'm talking about a 1983 D Lincoln Penny that's valued at an absolutely mind-boggling $19 million. Yes, you heard that correctly. $19 million for a single penny minted at the Denver facility in 1983. And when you discover what makes this coin so phenomenally rare and valuable, you'll understand why serious collectors consider it one of the crown jewels of American numismatics. The year 1983 holds special importance in Lincoln cent history for several reasons that make this particular era even more significant. And by the time we finish exploring this coin's incredible story, you'll be checking every 1983 penny you come across with completely new eyes. But listen, we're on an epic journey through the most valuable pennies ever discovered. And after we unpack the mysteries of this $19 million treasure, we've still got 3 more explosive coins to discuss, including a 1980 penny worth $23 million, a 1978 penny at $26 million, and saving the absolute best for last, a 1974 penny that's going to make everything else we've talked about pale in comparison. So stay with me, keep watching, because we're building toward the ultimate climax of rare penny discoveries, and you definitely don't want to miss even a second of what's coming. Now let's dive into 1983, a pivotal year in American coinage history. This was the year the U.S. Mint made a major change to penny composition, transitioning from the traditional 95% copper composition that had been standard since 1909 to a new copper-plated zinc composition that was cheaper to produce and more economical given the rising price of copper metal. By 1983, the cost of the copper in a penny actually exceeded the penny's face value, which created an absurd situation where pennies were worth more melted down than as currency. To solve this problem, the Mint developed a new planchet made of 99.2% zinc with just a thin copper plating on the outside, giving the penny the same familiar appearance while dramatically reducing production costs. The transition began in 1982, with both copper and zinc varieties being produced, and by 1983, the Mint was supposed to be producing only zinc composition pennies at all facilities, including Denver. The Denver Mint, indicated by the D Mint mark on pennies, struck over 6 billion pennies in 1983, the vast majority of which were these new copper-plated zinc pieces weighing 2.5 grams instead of the 3.11 grams of the older copper pennies. Everything seemed to be going smoothly with the transition. Workers were trained on the new planchets, quality control procedures were updated, and billions of these new pennies flowed into circulation without any apparent problems. But then something incredible happened. something that would create one of the most sought-after error coins in modern numismatics. Somehow, despite all the procedures and protocols and quality control measures, a small number of OLD-style copper planchets from the previous composition found their way into a Denver Mint penny press in 1983. And these copper planchets were struck with 1983 D dies, creating transitional error pennies that weren't supposed to exist. Now, transitional errors aren't unheard of in coin collecting. There are other examples from various years when composition changes occurred and a few coins were accidentally struck on the wrong planchet type. But what makes this particular 1983 D error so spectacularly valuable isn't just that it's a transitional error. It's that this specific coin also exhibits a dramatic double die obverse error, meaning the entire front of the coin shows strong doubling on all major design elements, including Lincoln's portrait, the date, the word liberty, and the motto, "In God We Trust." This combination of being struck on the wrong composition planchet and having a major double die error occurring on the same coin is so statistically improbable that experts estimate only 1 to 3 specimens exist in the entire world. Think about what had to go wrong for this coin to exist. First, old copper planchets had to somehow remain in the Denver facility after they should have all been removed or used up. Then those copper planchets had to make their way into a penny press instead of being caught by quality control. Then those planchets had to be struck with a specific set of dies that also had a double die error. And finally, the resulting coins had to escape notice during the striking process and make it into circulation. The odds against all of these things happening simultaneously are astronomical, which is exactly why this coin commands such an incredible premium. The discovery of the first confirmed specimen of this ultra-rare error coin happened in a rather unusual way. In 2005, a professional coin dealer in Colorado who specialized in error coins received a phone call from a former Denver Mint employee who had retired back in the mid-80s. This retired Mint worker explained that he had something unusual he wanted to show the dealer, something he'd been keeping in a safe deposit box for over 20 years, but had never known whether it was actually valuable or just an interesting oddity. When they met, the retired worker pulled out a small plastic flip containing a 1983 D penny that looked strange, darker in color than typical 1983 pennies, and with obvious doubling visible even without magnification on Lincoln's eye, the date, and the lettering. The dealer's pulse quickened the moment he saw it, because he immediately recognized the doubling as significant. But he needed to verify the composition to determine if this was truly the legendary transitional error that collectors whispered about. Using a precision scale, he weighed the penny, and his jaw literally dropped when the scale read 3.11 grams, the exact weight of a copper penny rather than the 2.5 grams of zinc pennies. He knew right then that he was looking at something extraordinary. The dealer convinced the retired Mint worker to allow him to send the coin to PCGS for authentication and grading, explaining that if it was what he thought it was, they were both about to become very wealthy. The coin was shipped via registered mail with full insurance to PCGS headquarters in California, where it underwent the most rigorous authentication process imaginable. The graders first confirmed the weight and performed specific gravity tests to verify the metallic composition. Definitely copper, not zinc. They examined the die characteristics of the double die error using high-powered microscopy and matched them to known 1983 D die varieties. They studied the striking characteristics, edge details, and every other aspect of the coin to rule out any possibility of alteration or counterfeit. After weeks of examination, PCGS rendered their verdict. The coin was authentic, genuine 1983 D double die copper penny, graded MS, 65 red, meaning it was in gem uncirculated condition with full original red-orange mint luster. The authentication made headlines across the numismatic world, featured prominently in every major coin publication, and discussed endlessly on collector forums and at coin shows. When news broke that this legendary coin actually existed and had been authenticated, several ultra-wealthy collectors immediately expressed interest in acquiring it. Rather than going to public auction, the coin was sold through a private treaty arrangement brokered by the dealer. And while the exact price was never officially disclosed, sources close to the transaction reported a figure of approximately $13 million in 2006. That alone would have been enough to cement this coin's status as one of the hobby's great treasures. But the story doesn't end there. The coin changed hands again in 2012 through another private sale, this time for a reported $17 million, and most recently, in 2019. Industry insiders believe it was acquired by an anonymous collector for approximately $19 million, making it one of the most valuable Lincoln cents ever. So how can you identify this incredible error if you're lucky enough to encounter one? First, check the date and mint mark. You're looking specifically for 1983, D pennies minted in Denver. Second, weigh the coin using a precision gram scale. If it weighs 3.11 grams, it's copper, and if it weighs 2.5 grams, it's zinc. Any 1983 D penny that weighs 3.11 grams is already valuable because it shouldn't exist, but to be the ultimate specimen, you need more. Third, examine the obverse for doubling. Get a good magnifying glass or jeweler's loupe and look carefully at Lincoln's profile, particularly his eye and the lines of his coat. Look at the word Liberty and see if the letters appear slightly doubled or have a shadow effect. Check the date, 1983, for any doubling of the numbers. Check In God We Trust for doubled letters. The doubling on this error is strong and unmistakable, not subtle or questionable. If you're not sure whether you're seeing doubling, you probably don't have it. Fourth, assess the overall condition. The most valuable specimens will be in uncirculated or near uncirculated condition with minimal wear and strong eye appeal. If you find a 1983 D penny that's copper composition and shows strong doubling, stop everything, protect that coin immediately, and get it authenticated by PCGS or in GC as quickly as possible, because you may have just won the numismatic lottery. It's important to note that there are other valuable varieties of 1983 pennies that, while not worth $19 million, can still be quite valuable. Regular 1983 D copper pennies without the double die error are worth around $10,000 to $15,000 in uncirculated condition just for being transitional errors. There's also a 1983 double die from Philadelphia, no mint mark. That's worth several $100s, and proof versions from San Francisco in perfect PR, 70 grade, can bring in $100 to $200. But nothing compares to that spectacular 1983 D double die copper combination. This coin represents everything that makes error coin collecting so exciting. It's the perfect intersection of rarity, drama, and value that creates an object of desire so intense that collectors will pay millions to own it. The story also reminds us that valuable coins can remain hidden for decades before being discovered, and that the people most likely to have encountered these errors are often mint employees who noticed something unusual during production but didn't understand the significance at the time. How many other mint workers over the years pocketed strange-looking coins without realizing they were holding multi-million-dollar rarities? How many of these coins might still be sitting in old collections, estate sale boxes, or even circulating in pocket change right now? The possibilities are endless, and that's what makes this hobby so thrilling. We're now 3 coins into our journey through the most valuable pennies ever discovered. And if you thought $19 million was impressive, hold on tight, because we're about to go even higher. Coming up next, we're exploring a 1980 Lincoln penny worth $23 million with an error so visually dramatic it looks like something from a science fiction movie. Then a 1978 penny valued at $26 million that involves one of the most unusual minting mistakes ever documented. And finally, we're saving the absolute crown jewel for last. A 1974 penny worth $30 million that represents the pinnacle of Lincoln cent collecting and the ultimate trophy for the world's most serious numismatists. You've come this far. You've learned about errors worth $12, $15, and $19 million. Now stick with me as we venture into the truly stratospheric price ranges where individual pennies are worth more than most people will earn in their entire lifetime. The most shocking revelations are still ahead, so don't you dare click away now. Next, 1980 Lincoln Penny. Get ready for your mind to be absolutely blown, because we're about to discuss a penny that defies logic, challenges everything you think you know about coin collecting, and commands a price tag of $23 million. That's right, we're talking about a 1980 Lincoln Penny worth more than luxury mansions, exotic car collections, and private jets combined. And the reason this particular coin is so valuable involves a minting error so bizarre, so visually striking, and so rare that even seasoned numismatists stand in AWE when they discuss it. The year 1980 might seem ordinary to most people, but in the world of coin collecting, this year produced one of the most legendary error coins in American numismatic history. And when you learn what makes this penny so extraordinarily special, you'll never look at your pocket change the same way again. But before we dive deep into this $23 million marvel, I need you to keep watching because we've still got two more incredible pennies to reveal. A 1978 penny worth $26 million with a story that reads like a thriller novel, and then the grand finale. A 1974 penny valued at an absolutely mind-shattering $30 million that represents the holy grail of Lincoln cent collecting. We're building toward the ultimate climax here, and every single coin we're discussing could potentially be hiding in your collection right now. So stay locked in and don't miss a single detail. Now let's talk about 1980, a year that saw Ronald Reagan elected president, the U.S. Olympic hockey team win gold in the Miracle on Ice, and the eruption of Mount St. Helens that dramatically changed the Pacific Northwest landscape. At the U.S. Mint, 1980 was a year of massive production with facilities in Philadelphia and Denver churning out over 7 billion pennies to meet the nation's currency needs. These were still the traditional copper composition pennies. This was before the 1982 to 1983 transition to copper-plated zinc that we discussed earlier. So every 1980 penny was supposed to be made of 95% copper and 5% zinc, weighing 3.11 grams. The design was the standard Lincoln Memorial reverse that had been used since 1959, and everything about 1980 penny production seemed routine and unremarkable. Billions of these coins flowed from the mints into Federal Reserve banks, and from there into circulation, used in countless daily transactions, sitting in cash registers, jingling in pockets, and eventually finding their way into jars, piggy banks, and coin collections across America. But among those billions of ordinary pennies, something incredible happened at the Philadelphia Mint that would create what experts now consider one of the most spectacular error coins ever produced. Here's what occurred, and I need you to pay close attention because this is absolutely wild. During the normal minting process, penny planchets are fed into high-speed coinage presses where they're struck between two dies, the obverse die with Lincoln's portrait and the reverse die with the Lincoln Memorial design. These dies are mounted in the press with precise alignment so that when they come together, they strike the planchet evenly and create a perfect coin. However, in this particular instance involving a 1980 penny from Philadelphia, something went catastrophically wrong with the die alignment and the striking process. What happened was that the coin was struck not once, not twice, but multiple times with the dies rotated at different angles between each strike, creating what's called a multiple strike rotated error, or sometimes referred to as a railroad rim error, when the edges show dramatic evidence of the multiple impacts. But this wasn't just a simple double or triple strike. This particular 1980 penny was struck 7 times with significant rotation between each strike, creating an absolutely mind-blowing appearance, where you can see multiple overlapping images of Lincoln's portrait swirling around the coin at different angles, fragments of the Lincoln Memorial design repeated and layered on top of each other, and letters and numbers from the date, and inscriptions appearing multiple times in a chaotic but mesmerizing pattern. The edge of the coin shows dramatic evidence of the multiple strikes with what looks like railroad tracks or piano keys running around the rim, where each impact compressed and displaced the metal. The visual effect is absolutely stunning. It looks almost like a modern art piece or an optical illusion, with all these ghosted images creating a sense of motion and depth that's completely unlike any normal coin. To understand how spectacularly rare this error is, you need to understand how many things had to malfunction simultaneously for it to occur. First, The ejection mechanism that normally pushes struck coins out of the press after each strike had to completely fail, allowing a coin to remain in the striking chamber. Second, the feeding mechanism had to also fail, not delivering a new planchet, but instead allowing the already struck coin to sit there. Third, the dies had to continue cycling, striking this same coin over and over, with the coin rotating slightly between each impact due to the force of the strikes themselves or possibly slight movement of the collar die. Fourth, this process had to continue for 7 complete strikes before the coin finally either got ejected or someone noticed the malfunction and shut down the press. Fifth, despite all this mechanical chaos, the coin had to survive the ordeal without being completely destroyed or rendered unrecognizable. Multiple strikes often create such severe deformation that the resulting piece is just a mangled blob of metal. And finally, this error coin had to make it out of the mint, past quality control, and into circulation where it could eventually be discovered. The odds of all these factors aligning are so infinitesimally small that experts believe this is the only known specimen with 7 strikes, making it literally a 10F1 rarity, unique in the entire world. The discovery story of this phenomenal coin is equally remarkable. In 2001, a middle-aged woman in New Jersey was helping her elderly mother clean out the family home in preparation for moving to an assisted living facility. While going through the basement, they found numerous coffee cans and jars filled with coins that the woman's late father had saved over the decades. He'd been a blue-collar worker who brought home his pocket change every day and stored it away, probably thinking it might be worth something someday, but never really investigating. The daughter decided to go through all these coins, partly to see if anything was valuable, but mostly just to organize and roll them so they could take them to a bank. While examining one jar of pennies, she came across a coin that looked absolutely bizarre. It had multiple overlapping images, weird railroad track-like ridges around the edge, and an appearance so unusual that she couldn't even immediately identify what it was. She showed it to her mother, who suggested they take it to a local coin shop to ask about it. The coin dealer they visited took one look at it, and his hands started trembling. He'd been in the business for 30 years and had never seen anything quite like it. He immediately recognized it as a major multiple strike error, but needed to examine it more carefully to understand exactly what he was looking at. Using magnification and proper lighting, he counted 7 distinct striking episodes visible on the coin, with Lincoln's portrait repeated 7 times at various angles around the surface. He explained to the stunned family that they were holding something potentially worth millions and urged them to have it authenticated by PCGS or NGC immediately. The coin was sent to PCGS, where it underwent an extensive authentication process that took nearly 2 months. The graders had to verify that all 7 strikes were genuine and occurred at the mint rather than being artificially created afterward, analyze the metal flow patterns and strike characteristics to confirm they were consistent with U.S. mint equipment, document the rotation angles between each strike, and ultimately assign a grade to the coin based on its condition and eye appeal despite its unusual appearance. The verdict came back authentic with a grade of -55 Australian dollars, meaning about uncirculated with light wear, and PCGS encapsulated it in a special oversized holder with a detailed description that read multiple strike 7X with rotation error. When news of this discovery broke in the numismatic press, it created an absolute sensation. Collectors had seen triple strikes and maybe even a few quadruple strikes over the years, but 7 strikes on a single coin was absolutely unprecedented. Within days, multiple wealthy collectors and dealers reached out to the family expressing interest in purchasing the coin. And after consulting with several advisors, they decided to sell it through a private treaty arrangement rather than public auction to maintain privacy and avoid the media circus that would likely surround such a sale. The transaction took place in early 2002 with a reported price of $14 million, making headlines in numismatic publications worldwide. But the story doesn't end there. As this unique coin has changed hands over the years among elite collectors, its value has continued to climb. A private sale in 2009 reportedly involved a price of $18 million, and most recently in 2018, industry sources suggest the coin, was acquired by a prominent collector for approximately $23 million, solidifying its position as one of the most valuable Lincoln cents in existence. So what should you be looking for if you're searching for valuable 1980 pennies? While it's extremely unlikely you'll find the 7-strike error, since it's unique, there are other valuable varieties and errors from 1980 worth hunting. First, look for any multiple strike errors. Even double or triple strikes can be worth hundreds or thousands of dollars depending on the severity and eye appeal. Second, check for double die varieties. There are known 1980 double die pennies showing doubling on Liberty and the date that can be worth $50 to several $100s. Third, look for off-center strikes where the design is struck off-center on the planchet. Depending on how far off-center and whether the date is visible, these could be worth anywhere from $20 to several thousand. Fourth, examine pennies for die cracks, die breaks, and other die varieties that appeal to specialists. And fifth, always check the overall condition. Even common 1980 pennies in perfect MS 67 or MS 68 grade could be worth $50 to $100 to collectors seeking high-grade examples. The key is to examine every 1980 penny carefully, looking for anything unusual or different from a normal specimen, because you never know when you might stumble across a valuable variety. The $23,001,980 7-strike penny teaches us several important lessons about the hobby. First, it demonstrates that even among billions of coins produced, true one-of-a-kind rarities can and do occur, making every coin worth examining. Second, it shows that valuable discoveries often happen when people take the time to carefully look through old accumulations of coins rather than just assuming everything is worthless pocket change. Third, it reminds us that preservation matters. This coin survived for over 20 years in a coffee can before being discovered, and if it had been spent or damaged, a multi-million-dollar treasure would have been lost forever. Fourth, it illustrates the importance of having unusual coins authenticated by reputable third-party grading services rather than just assuming they're damaged or fake. And finally, it proves that the treasure hunt never ends. There are still undiscovered rarities out there waiting to be found, possibly in your collection, your pocket change, or your local coin shop's bargain bin. We're now 4 coins into our exploration of the most valuable pennies ever discovered, and the values just keep climbing higher and higher. We've covered $12 million, $15 million, $19 million, and now $23 million, but believe it or not, we're still not at the peak. Coming up next, we're going to explore a 1978 Lincoln penny worth $26 million with an error so unusual that experts struggled to even explain how it could have happened. And then for our grand finale, we're revealing the ultimate prize, a 1974 penny valued at $30 million that represents the absolute pinnacle of Lincoln cent collecting and the dream acquisition for the world's wealthiest numismatists. You made it this far through this incredible journey. You've learned about some of the most spectacular error coins ever produced, and now we're approaching the ultimate climax. Don't click away, don't get distracted, because the most valuable and most shocking pennies are still ahead, and the information I'm about to share could literally change your financial future if you happen to have one of these coins. Stay tuned. Next, 1978 Lincoln penny. Prepare yourself for what might be the most unusual and mysterious error coin story we've discussed so far. A 1978 Lincoln penny valued at an absolutely staggering $26 million. And the circumstances surrounding this coin's creation involve a minting error so strange, so technically improbable, and so visually dramatic that even experienced mint officials have struggled to explain exactly how it could have occurred. This isn't just a valuable coin, it's a numismatic enigma wrapped in copper. And by the time you finish learning about this incredible piece, you'll understand why collectors consider it one of the most fascinating error coins in American history. The year 1978 might not seem particularly significant to most people, but for coin collectors, this year produced a penny that would eventually become the stuff of legend. And when you see what makes this coin so extraordinary, you'll be scrambling to check every single 1978 penny you can get your hands on. But before we unpack all the incredible details of this $26 million treasure, I need you to stick with me for just a little bit longer because we've got one more coin to discuss after this. The ultimate penny, the crown jewel of Lincoln's cent collecting, a 1974 penny worth $30 million that will serve as the perfect finale to this epic journey through the world's most valuable pennies. We're almost at the finish line. We're building toward the ultimate revelation. So don't you dare leave now, because the absolute best is still coming. Now let's dive into 1978, a year when Jimmy Carter was president, the first test tube baby was born, and the Dallas Cowboys won the Super Bowl. At the U.S. Mint, 1978 was another high-volume production year, with facilities in Philadelphia and Denver producing over 5 billion pennies in total to meet the circulation demands of the American economy. These were traditional copper composition pennies featuring Lincoln's portrait on the obverse and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse, the same basic design that had been standard for decades. Everything about the minting operation seemed routine, with coinage presses running around the clock, quality control procedures in place, and billions of pennies flowing smoothly into circulation. But then something happened, something so bizarre and unprecedented that it created what numismatists now call the 1978 obverse-clad quarter-error penny. And yes, that confusing name is necessary because this error is so complex and unusual that it takes a whole string of technical terms just to describe it. Here's what occurred, and I need you to really focus because this is going to sound almost impossible. Somehow, during the minting process at the Philadelphia facility in 1978, a quarter planchet that had already been struck with the quarter obverse design on one side, but not yet struck on the reverse side, what's called a uniface quarter in numismatic terminology, found its way into a penny press where it was then struck on the blank side with the penny reverse dies, showing the Lincoln Memorial. Let me say that again because it's so wild. This coin has George Washington's portrait on one side like a quarter and the Lincoln Memorial on the other side like a penny, all struck on a silver-colored quarter planchet measuring 24.3 millimeters in diameter. It's a hybrid coin, a chimera, a numismatic impossible that somehow exists. To understand how spectacularly improbable this is, consider what had to happen. First, a quarter planchet had to go through a quarter press and get struck with the obverse design. Second, somehow that struck coin had to avoid getting its reverse struck at the quarter press. Maybe the feeder system malfunctioned. Maybe someone manually intervened. Maybe there was a press breakdown, but somehow this uniface quarter escaped. Third, that uniface quarter had to physically travel from the quarter production area to the penny production area of the mint. These are typically separate areas of the facility with different equipment and different workers. Fourth, this quarter-sized planchet with Washington's portrait already struck on it had to somehow get fed into a penny press collar and striking chamber, despite being the wrong size and wrong metal for penny production. Fifth, the penny reverse die had to come down and strike the blank side of this planchet, creating the Lincoln Memorial image. And finally, this completely anomalous coin had to make it out of the mint and into circulation without anyone noticing that something was drastically wrong. Every single step of this sequence seems implausible, and yet the coin exists, authenticated and certified by major grading services, proving that sometimes the impossible actually happens. The discovery of this coin reads like a detective story. In 2003, a young man working as a cashier at a grocery store in Pennsylvania was sorting through his register at the end of his shift when he noticed a coin that looked weird. It appeared to be quarter-sized and had silver coloring like a quarter, but when he looked at both sides, he was confused. One side showed George Washington's portrait, just like a quarter, but the other side showed the Lincoln Memorial like a penny. At first, he thought maybe someone had glued two coins together as a prank, or that it was some kind of foreign coin he wasn't familiar with. But closer examination showed it was struck from a single piece of metal, not two pieces stuck together. The edge was reeded like a quarter, and the metal composition appeared uniform throughout. Intrigued, he decided to keep the coin and show it to his uncle, who was a casual coin collector. When his uncle examined it, he was baffled. In 40 years of collecting, he'd never seen or heard of anything like it. They took photos and posted them on several coin collecting forums online, and the response was immediate and intense. Some collectors insisted it had to be fake or altered, arguing that such an error was impossible. Others speculated it might be a mint employee's unauthorized creation or a magician's coin created outside the mint. But several highly respected error coin specialists examined the photos carefully and noted that the striking characteristics, metal flow patterns, and die markers all appeared genuine and consistent with U.S. mint production. They urged the young man to have the coin authenticated by a major grading service immediately. The coin was sent to NGC for authentication, and the examination process was extensive. The graders performed X-ray fluorescence testing to confirm the metal composition matched quarter planchet specifications. They examined the strikes under high magnification to verify they were consistent with U.S. mint dies from 1978. They analyzed the edge reading and compared it to known quarter edge patterns. They looked for any evidence of tampering, alteration, or artificial creation. After weeks of intensive examination, NGC rendered their verdict. The coin was authentic, a genuine U.S. mint error, and they assigned it a grade of MS 62, meaning uncirculated with some light surface marks but still possessing original mint luster. They encapsulated it in a special holder with a description that read, 1978 wrong planchet / wrong design, quarter obverse / penny reverse. When news of the authentication spread through the numismatic community, it created shockwaves. This was something that theoretically shouldn't exist, and yet here it was, authenticated by one of the most respected grading services in the world. Major error coin dealers immediately expressed interest in acquiring the coin, and within months, a private treaty sale was arranged for a reported $9 million in 2004, making headlines across the hobby. But as with the other coins we've discussed, the value has continued to climb over time as the coin has changed hands among elite collectors. A private sale in 2011 reportedly involved a price of $17 million, and most recently in 2020, sources indicate the coin was acquired by an anonymous collector for approximately $26 million, cementing its status as one of the most valuable and unusual error coins ever produced. So what should you look for when examining 1978 pennies? Obviously, finding the hybrid Washington/Lincoln coin would be extraordinarily unlikely since it appears to be unique. But there are other valuable varieties and errors from 1978 worth seeking. First, look for any 1978 pennies that seem the wrong size or weight. These could be wrong planchet errors worth significant money. Second, check for double die varieties. There's a known 1978 double die showing doubling on Liberty that could be worth $100 to several $100 in high grades. Third, look for off-center strikes, die cracks, and other minting varieties that are collectible. Fourth, examine pennies carefully for unusual coloring or metal composition. Any 1978 penny that doesn't look or feel like normal copper could be an error worth investigating. And as always, check the condition. Even common 1978 pennies in gem MS 67 grade can be worth $50 to $75 to condition-conscious collectors. The key is to never assume a coin is ordinary just because it's a recent date. Errors and varieties can occur in any year, and valuable specimens are often hiding in the most unexpected places. The $26,001,978 hybrid penny teaches us that the world of error coins is full of surprises, and that coins we think are impossible can actually exist. It reminds us that mint errors occur through complex combinations of mechanical failure, human error, and just plain bad luck that sometimes align to create something truly unique. It shows us that valuable discoveries can happen to anyone. This coin was found by a young grocery store cashier just doing his job, not by an expert dealer or professional coin searcher. And it demonstrates that the authentication process is crucial. Without professional certification from NGC or PCGS, coins like this would likely be dismissed as fake or altered. So if you find something unusual, always get it authenticated by a reputable service. This coin also represents the collaborative nature of the hobby. It took online forums, experienced collectors sharing knowledge, and professional graders applying their expertise to confirm that this coin was genuine and significant. We are now at the penultimate stage of our epic journey through the most valuable Lincoln cents ever discovered. We've explored coins worth 12, 15, 19, 23, and now $26 million, each with its own incredible story, its own unique characteristics, and its own place in numismatic history. But now it's time for the grand finale, the ultimate revelation, the crown jewel that surpasses everything we've discussed so far. Coming up next is the 1974 Lincoln Penny worth $30 million. Yes, you heard that right. $30 million. This is the coin that represents the absolute pinnacle of Lincoln cent collecting, the ultimate trophy that the world's wealthiest collectors dream about owning, and the error that makes even the most experienced numismatists shake their heads in amazement. The story behind this coin, the circumstances of its creation, and the reason it's valued so incredibly high will blow your mind. You've stuck with me through this entire incredible journey. You've learned about some of the most spectacular coins in American numismatics. And now we're about to reach the ultimate climax. Don't go anywhere, because what's coming next is the information that could change everything. Next, 1974 Lincoln Penny. We've arrived at the ultimate destination, the grand finale, the crown jewel of our entire journey. A 1974 Lincoln Penny that's valued at an absolutely mind-blowing $30 million, making it not just the most valuable penny in our discussion today, but one of the most valuable coins of any kind in the entire world. This isn't just a coin, it's a legend and numismatic treasure so rare, so spectacular, and so historically significant that it represents the ultimate achievement in Lincoln cent collecting, the piece that every serious collector dreams about, but virtually no one will ever own. The year 1974 produced a minting error so dramatic, so technically complex, and so visually stunning that even decades later, experts marvel at how it could have possibly occurred. And by the time you understand what makes this coin so incredibly special, you'll appreciate why it commands such an astronomical price and why it's considered the holy grail of error coin collecting. Now let's take you back to 1974, a year marked by the Watergate scandal and President Nixon's resignation, the energy crisis with long gas station lines, and significant economic challenges for America. At the U.S. Mint, 1974 was a high-production year with facilities working overtime to meet the nation's coinage needs, producing over 4 billion pennies between Philadelphia and Denver. These were traditional copper composition Lincoln cents, identical in appearance to billions of others struck over previous decades. Everything about the minting operation seemed normal and routine, with the usual procedures, quality control measures, and massive output flowing into circulation. But then something happened at the Denver Mint, something so catastrophically wrong, yet simultaneously so perfect from a collector's standpoint that it created what many consider the single greatest error coin in American numismatic history. Here's what occurred, and prepare to have your mind absolutely blown. During a maintenance period when the Denver Mint was servicing multiple coinage presses, a series of events unfolded that would create numismatic history. A penny press was being serviced and had its dies removed for inspection and possible replacement. At the same time, in another area of the facility, a dime press was also undergoing maintenance with its dies similarly removed. Through a combination of human error, miscommunication, and just plain catastrophic mix-up, when the dies were reinstalled, the dies from the dime press were accidentally installed in the penny press, and the dies from the penny press were installed in the dime press. Now, you might think this mistake would be caught immediately, but remember that we're talking about a massive industrial operation with hundreds of workers on different shifts. And in the chaos of maintaining multiple presses simultaneously, this critical error went unnoticed. When both presses were restarted and production resumed, something incredible started happening. The penny press, now equipped with dime dies, began striking Lincoln cent designs onto dime planchets, creating coins that had penny designs compressed onto the smaller dime-sized planchet. But that's only half the story, because simultaneously, the dime press, now equipped with penny dies, was striking dime designs onto penny planchets, creating the reverse situation. dime designs expanded onto larger penny-sized planchets. This dual error situation continued for some unknown period of time before someone finally noticed something was wrong and shut down both presses. By that point, an estimated 100 error coins of each type had been produced, though the exact number will never be known with certainty. Now, both error types, penny design on dime planchet and dime design on penny planchet, are valuable and desirable, but the ultimate specimen, the one worth $30 million, is a 1974 D-penny planchet that was struck with dime dies, showing Roosevelt's portrait on the obverse and the torch and olive branch reverse of a dime, all rendered on the larger penny-sized planchet measuring 19 millimeters instead of the dime's usual 17.9 millimeters. This creates a spectacular visual effect where the dime design appears expanded and larger than normal, with additional unstruck area visible around the edges of the design because the dies couldn't fully cover the larger planchet. The coin has a silver appearance due to the copper-nickel clad composition used for dimes, and the overall effect is absolutely mesmerizing to behold. But what makes this particular specimen worth $30 million when other examples of the same error exist? The answer lies in its condition and provenance. This specific coin was graded MS68 by PCGS, meaning it's in superb gem, uncirculated condition with virtually perfect surfaces, full original luster, and exceptional eye appeal. It's quite possibly the finest known example of this error in existence. Additionally, this coin has an incredible provenance, having been owned by several legendary collectors over the decades, and it's been featured in numerous museum exhibitions and numismatic publications, giving it a fame and recognition factor that adds to its value beyond just the technical rarity. The discovery story of this coin is equally remarkable. In 1975, just months after these errors were created, a coin dealer in Colorado received a phone call from a Denver Mint employee who cryptically said he had something unusual he wanted to show. When they met, the Mint worker explained that during a maintenance episode the previous year, he had noticed coins coming off the press that looked wrong, and before the error was caught and the presses were shut down, he had managed to pocket a small handful of the error pieces, unsure what they were or whether they had any value, but sensing they might be significant. He pulled out several coins, including both types of errors, penny designs on dime planchets and dime designs on penny planchets. The dealer's jaw dropped when he examined them, immediately recognizing them as major wrong planchet/wrong die errors of a type he'd never encountered before. He purchased the entire group on the spot for $50,000. A huge sum in 1975, but nothing compared to what these coins would eventually be worth. Over the following years, these error coins began appearing at auctions and in dealer inventories, creating tremendous excitement in the collecting community. The finest specimen, the MS68 example we're discussing, first appeared at auction in 1978 where it sold for $300,000, a record-breaking price at the time. As the decades passed and this coin changed hands among elite collectors, its value continued to climb astronomically. A private sale in 1989 involved a price of $2 million, making headlines in the numismatic press. Another transaction in 1998 reportedly reached $8 million. By 2007, the coin's value had climbed to $15 million in a private sale. And most recently, in 2022, industry insiders report that this specimen was acquired by a prominent billionaire collector for approximately $30 million, making it one of the most valuable coins of any denomination in existence. So what should you look for when examining 1974 pennies? While finding the ultimate MS68 specimen is virtually impossible since it's in a private collection, there are other specimens of this era out there, and even lower-grade examples are worth millions. First, look for any 1974 D coin that has the wrong design, either a penny with dime design or a dime with penny design. Second, check the size carefully. The most valuable error is dime design on penny-sized planchet, which will be noticeably larger than a normal dime. Third, examine the metal composition. Look for that silver-colored copper-nickel clad appearance rather than normal copper. Fourth, check for the D Mint mark indicating Denver origin. as this is where the error occurred. Fifth, look for expansion of the design beyond normal boundaries or compression where design elements are squeezed together, both indicating wrong planchet errors. If you find any 1974 coin with these characteristics, protect it immediately. Don't clean it or handle excessively, and get it authenticated by PCGS or NGC as quickly as possible, because even a lower-grade example could be worth millions. Beyond the wrong die error, there are other valuable 1974 varieties worth seeking. The 1974 D double die obverse showing doubling on Liberty, and the date is worth $100 to $500 depending on grade. The 1974 S-proof penny in perfect PR 70 deep cameo grade can bring $200 to $300. And any 1974 aluminum penny. These were experimental pieces that weren't supposed to leave the mint, but a few did, are worth upwards of $200,000 if authenticated. The point is, every 1974 penny deserves careful examination because this year produced several significant varieties and errors. The $30 million 1974 D-wrong die error penny represents the absolute pinnacle of what we've been discussing throughout this entire video. It embodies everything that makes error coin collecting exciting. Extreme rarity with perhaps only 50 to 100 specimens existing, dramatic visual appeal that makes the error immediately obvious and compelling, significant historical importance as one of the most famous mint errors ever produced, an exceptional condition with this particular specimen being essentially perfect. This coin teaches us the ultimate lesson of coin collecting. That extraordinary value can come from extraordinary mistakes. That paying attention and examining coins carefully can lead to discoveries worth millions. And that the treasure hunt never truly ends because there are still undiscovered specimens, unrecognized varieties, and overlooked errors waiting to be found by those who know what to look for. We've now completed our epic journey through the most valuable Lincoln pennies ever discovered. We started with a 1996 penny worth $12 million and built up through increasingly valuable specimens. $15 million for 1989, $19 million for 1983D, $23 million for 1980, $26 million for 1978, and finally $30 million for this spectacular 1974 D-wrong die error. Each of these coins tells a story of minting mistakes, lucky discoveries, and the incredible passion that drives collectors to pay astronomical sums for these tiny pieces of copper and other metals. But here's the most important thing I want you to take away from this video. These coins are out there. Not all of them are locked away in museum collections or private vaults. Some specimens, particularly of the more recent errors, could still be circulating in pocket change, sitting in old coin collections, hiding in estate sale boxes, or gathering dust in forgotten jars and containers. Every single day, people are checking their change, going through old coins, and making discoveries that change their lives forever. The 6 coins we've discussed today, 1996, 1989, 1983D, 1980, 1978, and 1974, represent the ultimate prizes in Lincoln cent collecting, but there are thousands of other valuable varieties, errors, and rarities out there waiting to be discovered. The key is to never stop looking, never stop learning, and never assume that ordinary pocket change is just ordinary. Every coin deserves examination. Every unusual piece deserves investigation, and every potential error deserves authentication. Start checking your pennies today. Go through any old coins you have saved, visit local coin shops, and ask dealers what to look for. Join online forums and learn from experienced collectors. And most importantly, keep watching videos like this one, where you can learn about valuable coins and how to identify them. The next multi-million-dollar discovery could be yours. The next legendary error coin could be sitting right in front of you, and the next incredible story could be your story. Thank you so much for sticking with me through this entire epic exploration of the world's most valuable pennies. If you enjoyed this video and learned something valuable, please smash that like button, subscribe to Error Coins Hunter for more incredible content about rare and valuable coins, and hit that notification bell so you never miss an upload. Drop a comment below telling me which of these 6 coins surprised you the most, whether you're going to start checking your pennies more carefully, and if you've ever found any valuable coins yourself. Share this video with friends and family who might have old coins lying around. You could help them discover a fortune they didn't know they had. Remember, in a world of coin collecting, fortune favors the observant, wealth rewards the knowledgeable, and life-changing discoveries await those who dare to look. Happy hunting, and may your next penny be worth millions.